Hello there, squirrels. Time to read. Past time to read. I was so sleepy, and I hope I won't read myself to sleep. Tessa's Surprises. Published in 1871, as was the last story we read by Louisa May Alcott. Chapter 1. Little Tessa sat alone by the fire, waiting for her father to come home from work. The children were fast asleep, all four, in the big bed behind the curtain. The wind blew hard outside, and the snow beat on the window panes. The room was large, and the fire so small and feeble that it didn't half warm the little bare toes peeping out of the old shoes on the hearth. Tessa's father was an Italian plaster worker, very poor, but kind and honest. The mother had died not long ago and left 12-year-old Tessa to take care of the little children. She tried to be very wise and motherly and worked for them like any little woman, but it was so hard to keep the small bodies warm and fed, and the small souls good and happy, that poor Tessa was often at her wits' end. She always waited for her father, no matter how tired she was, so that he might find his supper warm, a bit of fire and a loving little face to welcome him. Tessa thought over her troubles at these quiet times and made her plans, for her father left things to her a good deal, and she had no friends but Tomo, the harp boy upstairs, and the lively cricket who lived in the chimney. Tonight her face was very sober, and her pretty brown eyes very thoughtful, as she stared at the fire and knit her brows as if perplexed. She was not thinking of her old shoes, nor the empty closet, nor the boys' ragged clothes just then. No, she had a fine plan in her good little head, and was trying to discover how she could carry it out. You see, Christmas was coming in a week, and she had set her heart on putting something in the children's stockings, as the mother used to do. For while she lived, things were comfortable. Now Tessa had not a penny in the world, and didn't know how to get one, for the father's earnings had to go for food, fire, and rent. If there were only fairies, how heavenly that would be! For then I should tell them all I wish, and pop, behold the fine things in my lap, said Tessa to herself. I must earn the money. There is no one to give it to me, and I cannot beg. But what can I do, so small and stupid and shy as I am? I must find some way to give the little ones a nice Christmas. I must. And Tessa pulled her long hair as if that would help her think, but it didn't. And her heart got heavier and heavier, for it did seem hard that in a great city full of fine things there should be none for poor Nono, Sep, and little Speranza. Just as Tessa's tears began to tumble off her eyelashes onto her brown cheeks, the cricket began to chirp. Of course he didn't say a word, but it really did seem as if he had answered her question almost as well as a fairy. For before he had piped a dozen shrill notes, an idea popped into Tessa's head. Such a truly splendid idea that she clapped her hands and burst out laughing. I'll do it, if father will let me, she said to herself, smiling and nodding at the fire. Tomo will like to have me go with him and sing, while he plays his harp in the streets. I know many songs, and may get money if I'm not frightened, for people throw pennies to other little girls who only play the tambourine. Yes, I'll try, and then, if I do well, the little ones shall have a Merry Christmas. So full of her plan was Tessa that she ran upstairs at once and asked Tomo if he would take her with him on the morrow. Her friend was delighted, for he thought Tessa's songs very sweet, and was sure she would get money if she tried. But But see then, it's cold in the streets, the wind bites, and the snow freezes one's fingers. The day is very long, people are cross, and at night one is ready to die with weariness. Thou art so small, Tessa. I'm afraid it will go badly with thee, said Tomo, who was a merry, black-eyed boy of 14, with the kindest heart in the world under his old jacket. I do not mind the cold and wet and cross people if I can get the pennies, answered Tessa, feeling very brave and such a help to get such a amen. Do not mind cold and wet and cross people if I get penny. Feeling very brave with such a friend to help her, she thanked Tomo and ran away to get ready, for she felt sure her father would not refuse her anything. She sewed up the holes in her shoes as well as she could, for she had much of that sort of cobbling to do. She mended her only gown and laid ready the old hood and shawl which had been her mother's. Then she washed out little Ranza's frock and put it to dry, because she would not be able to do it the next day. She set the table and got things ready for breakfast, for Tomo went out early and must not be kept waiting for her. She longed to make the beds and dress the children overnight. She was in such a hurry to have all in order, but as that could not be, she sat down again and tried over all the songs she knew. 6 pretty ones were chosen, and she sang away with all her heart in a fresh little voice so sweetly that the children smiled in their sleep, and her father's tired face brightened as he entered, for Tessa was his cheery cricket on the hearth. When she had told her plan, Peter Benary shook his head and thought it would never do, but Tessa begged so hard, he consented at last that she could try it for 1 week, and sent her to bed the happiest little girl in New York. Next morning the sun shone, but the cold wind blew, and the snow lay thick in the streets. As soon as her father was gone, Tessa flew about and put everything in nice order, telling the children she was going out for a day and they were to mind Tomo's mother, who would see about the fire and the dinner, for the good woman loved Tess, and entered into her little surprise. Hang on. Shoot. I don't know where I got that. For the good woman loved Tessa and entered into her little plans with all her heart. Nono and Giuseppe, or Sep, as they called him, wondered what she was going away for, and little Ranza cried at being left, but Tessa told them they would know all about it in a week and have a fine time if they were good. So they kissed her all round and let her go. Poor Tessa's heart beat fast as she trudged away with Tomo, who slung his harp over his shoulder and gave her his hand. It was rather a dirty hand, but so kind that Tessa clung to it and kept looking up at the friendly brown face for encouragement. We go first to the cafe, where many French and Italians eat the breakfast. They like my music and often give me sips of hot coffee, which I like much. You too shall have the sips and perhaps the pennies, for these people are greatly kind, said Tomo, leading her into a large smoky place, where many people sat at large tables eating and drinking. See now? Have no fear. Give them Bella Monica. That is merry and will make the laugh, whispered Tomo, tuning his harp. For a moment Tessa felt so frightened that she wanted to run away, but she remembered the empty stockings at home and the fine plan, and she resolved not to give up. One fat old Frenchman nodded to her, and it seemed to help her very much, for she began to sing before she thought, and that was the hardest part of it. Her voice trembled, and her cheeks grew redder and redder as she went on, but she kept her eyes fixed on her old shoes, and so got through without breaking down, which was very nice. The people laughed. For the song was merry, and the fat man smiled and nodded again. This gave her courage to try another, and she sung better and better each time. For Tomo played his best and kept whispering to her, "Yes, we go well, this is fine. They will give the money and the blessed coffee." So they did, for when the little concert was over, several men put pennies in the cap Tessa offered, and the fat man took her on his knee and ordered a mug of coffee and some bread and butter for them both. This quite won her heart. When they left the cafe, she kissed her hand to the old Frenchman, who said to her friends, Quite won her heart. When they left the cafe, she kissed her hand to the whole, and said to her friend, "How kind they are! I like this very much, and now it's not hard." But Tomo shook his curly head and answered soberly, "Yes, I took you there first, for they love music and are of our country, but up among the great houses we shall not always do well. The people there are busy or hard or idle and care nothing for harps and songs. Do not skip and laugh too soon, for the day is long and we have but 12 pennies yet." Tessa walked more quietly and rubbed her cold hands, feeling that the world was a very big place, and wondering how the children got on at home without the little mother. Till noon they did not earn much, for everyone seemed in a hurry, and the noise of many sleigh bells drowned the music. Slowly they made their way up to the great squares where the big houses were, where fine ladies and pretty children at the windows. Here Tessa sung all her best songs, and Tomo played as fast as his fingers could fly. But it was too cold to have the windows open, so the pretty children could not listen long, and the ladies tossed out a little money and soon went back to their own affairs. All the afternoon the two friends wandered about, singing and playing and gathering up their small harvest. At dusk they went home. Tessa, so hoarse she could hardly speak, and so tired she fell asleep over her supper. But she had made $50, for Tomo divided the money fairly, and she felt rich with her share. And guys, I'm going to stop there. So let's start reading crazy stuff. But starting out good, I think. Y'all be sweet. Don't be ugly. Santa's watching. See y'all tomorrow. Gotta put batteries in those. Night night. Or bye. Love y'all.